Mr. Lu, my Alibaba and my Tesla shares have crashed tremendously. What am I going to do now? Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of interest right now in Alibaba and Tesla for the wrong reason because it's crashing and crashing and crashing. And without these two shares, people are wondering how am I going to make my multi-million dollars or make a lot of money for my retirement, right? So today I will give you an analysis of my views of Tesla and Alibaba, but I also give you my formula for making outsized returns that can help you with potentially help you with your retirement. So let's take a look at what I'm going to share with you. Today, I'm going to share with you my reflection on the recent crash in Alibaba shares and Tesla shares. And more importantly, I will give you towards the end of my video my strategy for making millions from growth stocks. Because the whole reason why people invest in Alibaba and Tesla is that they were the darlings of Wall Street having tremendous growth. So I'll give you my formula, and it's been proven for decades that work. But let's go on, shall we? So usual disclaimer, this is for education entertainment, not to tell you to buy or sell. And let's go now. So many people has loved and are still loving, has still infatuation or deeply passionately in love with Alibaba shares and Tesla shares. Today, many blogs and videos are still talking about these two shares because the interest of these two shares have picked up, unfortunately, for the wrong reason. I've been watching some of the YouTube videos. We have got famous AK71 recently talked about Alibaba and Tesla shares that have tanked and what he's going to do. And also we have got a gentleman who runs a backholder pot, very inspiring young investors. They also talk about the situation with Alibaba and Tesla shares. Not to forget the usual bull of Tesla. Years ago, always talk about Tesla and how you can retire in Tesla shares and things like that. So I want to give you my personal reflection on Alibaba and Tesla, especially Tesla, given that I only recently liquidated all my Tesla shares. So I'll give you my view of it. So Tesla and Alibaba were once darling of Wall Street. Darling, super in love. Everybody loves them, right? Almost everybody in YouTube that I watched from the US and some from Singapore all talk about these two shares and how they make millions of them, especially for Tesla in the recent years. So Alibaba has plunged a lot, and of course Alibaba had Jack Ma, which is a very charismatic and very endearing personality in China. And we have also got Elon Musk, which is the incredible entrepreneur that the Wall Street loves them, right? So what happened to them? Why is the situation so bad now? Well, if you look at all the shares, Tesla shares have crashed terribly, by almost half since July prices. And not to forget, the crash of Tesla does have an impact on S&P 500 and Nasdaq because it's a component shares of them. It's not a lot, but it's enough to have some impact. And Alibaba is even worse, right? Alibaba has crashed almost close to 80% from its high of 2020 prices. So this one is a exact situation that all the growth investors fear, because these two shares are really the cornerstone of many people's strategy to do well financially for their retirement or to get rich. So what happened to them? Let's take a look at Tesla first, shall we? So Tesla is a EV car maker, and it has missed market expectation. The competition in US and the rest of the world has gone immensely intense. Let's talk about US first, shall we? So within US itself, sales have dropped within US. The Tesla market share is shrinking, and there are domestic competition from rivals like Ford and some other car makers. And overall sales in EV cars are also slowing down. So if you can see, these are the graphs from 2022 is going up in terms of market share, and then now is declining right now to just about half. In the rest of the world, especially in China, the competition is just a bloodbath. In China, where the EV cars are rising exponentially, okay, there is a price war that is bloodletting. All the EV cars are having a tough time. They're now building cars that is a lot more cheaper with smaller batteries, and Tesla are forced to fight on prices. And the EV cars, from what I understand after reading all the reports, the EV cars are actually very good. In Europe right now, Teslas are often used for Uber and some taxis as well. And I've also experienced some Chinese EV cars as well. When I sit into both of them, it doesn't really feel much different from each other, right? All have a big, nice screen, all are very comfortable, all are look amazingly highly digital and smart and quiet when they move along. So I can't tell the differences. Maybe I'm not the driver. I'm just sitting on some of these EV cars. But just personal experience-wise, it looks the same, okay? But I think the Chinese EV makers are a lot cheaper. The Chinese are amazing with electronics, right? And somehow the car seems to be an extension of electronic products as well. And the competition is just bloodletting. So Elon Musk said in a call that the company has planned to start production of new models, and they are also having a huge investments in artificial intelligence and possibly license some of their driver-assisted system into other car makers, especially the self-driving system and things like that. So all these are good news. So the markets are pricing in some hope despite the missed earnings. When it comes to investing, hope is a good and dangerous thing. We don't know whether you will materialize and how the competition will react. But I would just say that this is a current situation where right now the market has fallen tremendously, and there's a lot of volatility whenever there's some news of this come out. So let's now switch cam to Alibaba and see what happens. So Alibaba started its crash when China government start cracking down all the big techs in late 2020. For Alibaba, the nightmare comes when Jack Ma make a public statement, actually not on Alibaba, more during the Ant Finance near IPO, and he criticized the Chinese government. As a result, that started the whole crash of Alibaba. And unfortunately, the crash extended to other tech companies as well. It was an extended crackdown on many big tech companies that wipe out trillions of dollars, especially in Alibaba market value. And I think this crackdown is not over yet. So big tech in China is now in face of a terrible crackdown from the Chinese government. And this is a terrible policy risk that China stocks are facing. Putting politics aside, government aside, the Chinese e-commerce market has tremendous competition. So Alibaba faced stiff competition from this company called Pinduoduo, JD.com, and they're losing market share and has registered slower growth in traffic right now. So if you look at the market share right now, is one direction coming down here from a high of 60% to now 40%. So you have all the competitors growing phenomenally, and clearly the rise of Pinduoduo has taken a lot of shares from them. And in Chinese e-commerce is really state of art, right? Even Singapore learn from them, and US is even miles behind China. So it is a serious matter. And if you look at the underlying market environment, it's not looking good for Alibaba. Within the company itself, there's a lot of power struggles, a lot of politics and things like that. And I'll quote some of this statement. It's a very bad and chaotic situation. Many of those who need to be fired have internal backers and cannot be dismissed, says some executive. In March 2023, there was a restructuring aiming to make the organization simpler and more agile, but the plans have changed late last year, and there were U-turns in policy and plans and things like that. And all these are reflection of some internal mess that the company has. Basically, the whole Alibaba story is a story of the Chinese economy. And unfortunately, the Chinese economy, which I've said many, many times, is not doing well. And the housing market has collapsed and not likely to recover for a few years or maybe even decades. The consumer confidence is terribly low. Youth unemployment is sky high. And, we just don't see the consumer huge buying behavior that we have seen in the past before. And something is really wrong with China. And all these have flow-over effect on Alibaba. So taking a step back, I don't have Alibaba shares. I used to have Tesla shares, procrastinated selling it. Fortunately, when it was a time to rebalance, my son sold half of my portfolio away. So what I really lost was the profit. I lost some of it, not all of it, but still it was painful to lose some money. And eventually I sold it at $190 and I got rid of everything. Right now, I don't know what's the share price right now, 160 or 170. But it was a bittersweet experience with Tesla to make some good profits and then lost quite a significant part of it. Well, this is things you face with stock picking and Tesla and things like that. Clearly, I've said this before, I'm going to say again. Stock picking is very, very, very difficult, right? Stock picking is very, very difficult. I can't do it. I know of professional experts that can't do it well as well. I know of people who, unless they are full-time into this with access to powerful instruments and portfolios, they can't do it as well. I don't know how some of us think that we can do stock picking well over a long period of time. So isn't it a lot easier to go into a diversified index funds, okay? And I don't quote anybody, I quote Warren Buffett, right? So by periodically investing in an index fund, the know-nothing investors like me, okay, can actually outperform most of the investment professionals. So I've seen it. That many professionals say they're very good. Actually, their performance is not any much better than myself. I just throw money to S&P 5 and Nasdaq and just walk away. I have a smaller portfolio that I dabble using algorithms and computer science and things like that. That is okay. I don't think that much beat the index funds as well, where I almost put no effort into it. So stock picking is really very difficult for the man in the streets. Many of you think that you can beat the market. Maybe you can. Maybe you're an expert. I can't. Okay, I've tried it for decades. I still can't. So I fall back to what I think, Uncle Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, and some of the experts say, just go for a globally diversified index and just sit back and relax. Will Alibaba rise again? It's hard to say, right? It's hard to say. It's in my view that unless there's a significant political environment change in China, where it reinstills the confidence of people, where there's a recovery of the real estate market, I don't think Alibaba or the China stock recovery will come in the near future. It might come, then it's really unexpected, but it's something that we cannot predict easily when it is about politics, right, about government. That is very difficult to predict. And that's something that we cannot use mathematics spreadsheets and reading charts and reading financial statements and makes a prediction. So Alibaba, despite its underlying financials are still very sound, we cannot make an easy prediction on its future performance because we are now predicting a political environment, and that's very difficult to predict. And will Tesla rise again? I'm not in a position to judge all this, but I prefer to say that I can't tell, so therefore I don't touch. It is okay to decide that you are not good in certain areas and therefore you don't touch it, right? So this is me. I am not in a position to be able to see Tesla future, so therefore I don't touch. I've said it before and must say again. For my growth portfolio, I don't need to bet on individual stocks. I just simply bet on the Nasdaq 100. The Nasdaq 100s have many, many decades of growth. Of course, there's a lot of volatility in a very huge way since 1995. But even during the dot-com bust where it crashed by 80%, it eventually recovered and still grew from strength to strength. So the compound annual growth rate, depending on which period you look for, is somewhere between 14% to 16 or 17%. That's a phenomenal growth rate. Very difficult for most individual investors and stock pickers to replicate. Now, of course, some people say, no, 1 year I can grow 40%. Try repeating that for 10 years or 20 years. I think is really very difficult. For some people who do not know how to appreciate a double-digit growth rate, let me give you the mathematics behind. If you are able to achieve a 15% annual growth rate, which is phenomenal, but that happened to be the average growth rate over the last few decades of the Nasdaq, $100,000 investment in the Nasdaq likely to become 400K in 10 years. So it grew by 4 times in 10 years. But if you let it compound to 20 years, you'll become 1.6 million. And if you let it compound to 30 years, you'll become $6.6 million, assuming that the average goes up and history to repeat again. Some people say, oh, but Mr. Lu, you cannot cannot look at past performance as a predictor of future. Yes, generally for individual stocks, but for huge mega portfolios, it's a lot more safer, not 100%, a lot more safer for me to believe that the history of the last 50 to 100 years is likely going for the next 10, 20, 30 years. So I've sat through NASDAQ during the crash of 2020, I said a crash of 2022. I think I can stomach those volatility. There may be more serious one like the 2008 one. They have not tested myself in a NASDAQ experience, but I think the NASDAQ, is something I can count on to let it compound till my retirement. So it will be a very big number, and I would like to see myself be able to hold on through this ride. So what do you think, right? So Alibaba and Tesla, for those people who are infatuated and loving them, give me your thoughts. Those people who think that my approach towards growth stocks and growth portfolios is something that you're interested in, or you're not interested in, you're against it, whatever, give me your comments. As usual, remember to like and subscribe my YouTube channel and join us in our Telegram group at Lu1865, and I'll see you in a day or two. Bye-bye.